On day 11, we'll be drawing again. We'll pursue on gesture, this time on adding more consideration for shapes and forms. Our shapes and form are meant to deliver clarity, a sense of diversity, and a synergy between the characters, the concept they represent, and the environment they involve in. They will be mainly focusing on continuing character design. We'll start on day 11, but you have up to day 15 to refine your 4 main characters' appearance. We've already established that creating a sense of diversity in the appearance of your character is highly desirable for your story, as it allows you to balance the factor familiarity with the balance surprise more flexibly. You want to be able, at any point of your story, to manage these 2 factors. For example, here, we're using mainly humanoid forms in order to create these humanoid characters. So there's a sense of familiarity. Now the surprise is mainly on the size and the shape of the bodies. So you want to be able to create different body size and body shapes, which will translate into body types, in order to define how your story may become more surprising in the future. Now, how do you get great shapes? Shapes are meant to be clear. If you're not able to create clear shapes, it's highly likely that they will not be understood properly. And if they're not understood properly, you'll have an issue to communicate the message you've got in this storyline. Now, what makes a clear shape? Say you want to start with boxes, very, very simple boxes, only slightly deformed. Squares, quadrilaterals in general, and then you're gonna play with the complementarity of form to create a silhouette. And the very fact that you're playing with these forms will indicate how your character will evolve in your environment. Now, you're already creating a sense of movement here. Now, this is rigid and this is raw. Let's try to refine it and make it more gestural. You got the same thing, but it will be more flexible and more refined if you use it. Now, the 3 main shapes you want to use if you're beginning are square, or any kind of quadrilateral, box, triangle, and circle. Now, and with these 3, you can create any kind of character. Just have to twist them a little bit. In order to reach your objective. Now the square is most often the one you'll use the most. You also got something like more of a trapezoid sphere shape. For the iliac bones, mainly, but not only. Triangles, you will make use of them in terms of articulations, in terms of hands, and in terms of feet. Well, the circle will mainly serve you for the head. But when it comes to head, you can go for circles. You can go for really basic head shapes like this. But we do not recommend you that you go only for circles, only that you use them as silhouettes. You want your head to be somehow angular. But your head is not a sphere. So even if it's easier to picture it as so, your head is more of a cube, in fact, a deformed cube. Now you don't have to do such a prominent jaw, You can go for something more triangular. Just by keeping the proportion correctly. I think I'm drawing it a little too fast here. No, that's how you can generate your head, really. So you want, in the beginning, to consider drawing the head separately from the body first, and then going for the body. Or the other way around. Start with the body, and then take your time for the head to add more details. Now, there's something with the head when you draw it from sideways. That you want to create a mass at the bottom of the cranium. You want to be sure that this mass is present and it's prevalent here. And you want to be sure that the face is only a mask on the forward, the front of the skull. We'll review this consideration in the future, but for now, imagine that the face is a mask which is glued to your skull. It shouldn't take too much space in front view, especially even when you're in 3/4, it should only take this size really of the face. Of the skull. That's the side the face should occupy, which is not much. That's a general remark, because most of the time we tend to draw our head from a front view, and the thing is, the front view is only the face, almost only the face, But anatomically, if you're correct, it's only this part. The face is not even all the front view. So you have to really consider that, because we tend to extrapolate the importance of the face on the skull in terms of proportion, because it is the symbolic value of the face which prevails from us, other than the actual proportion. Same remark for the facial features. Actually, the most important one in terms of size is the nose. The eyes themselves aren't that big. What's big is the orbit. The arcade is prominent, and the hole in your skull is. The orbit is important, but not the eye itself in terms of size. Now, depending on your art style, you want to modify that, but in the beginning we recommend that you try to remain as accurate as possible with anatomical features. And here the key word is possible. You will make mistakes. That's what happened in the beginning. Right now, as we're going a little too fast in our demonstration, I'm making some anatomical mistakes when it comes to proportion. Not so much to position now, because with time, position is easier to find. Now you'll know where your eyes are supposed to be, which kind of inclination you're supposed to have with time, really. But proportion is always the difficult part to manage, really. If you have the ability to compare to compare multiple faces, and really in the beginning use lots of references. If you're not able to pick your references, or if you think you're wasting too much time by picking references, just choose 4 to 10 models. You take 4 to 10 models of supermodels, and you copy. You copy as much as you can by respecting the three-dimensional aspect of what you're supposed to draw. Now, so if you're taking a head now, if you have already your reference photos, and you think for yourself, okay, I've got these 4 heads, I like these 4 heads, I'm gonna use these 4 heads as references for my character's head. Okay, do so. But think about the fact that they have to be tridimensional, and it's for another time, the volume aspect, but try to consider it right. So back to proportions. It's really important to know your biases. For example, as I'm drawing right now, with no references, I have to consider that I'm drawing my lips a little thick. You know, I'm drawing the lips thick every time. And if I'm drawing lips from a reference, if the lips are too thin in my perspective, I'm gonna thicken them. That's one of my biases. You'll have to consider also the fact that your shapes, your shapes will never be good enough. No, you want to rethink your shape in general, because you'll reach a point where you'll find a balance between the clarity, the clarity and the complexity of shit, or the interest. Because as in the beginning, your only objective is to really make your shapes clear, make them attractive through clarity. But once you've started to evolve, once you've started to make your art your own, you want to balance clarity and complexity to create more interest, more attractiveness. Now let's try another model. If you're not sure how to start representing your character, I suggest that you use a canvas such as this one. For example, you can have four representation of the head, and don't use these 4 representation, these 4 slots to exercise yourself to turn your head around, because that's not the goal here. The goal is to try different heads, and you want to try heads at different angles, but you want to try different heads, and that's the most important part. You know, the goal here is not to do a turnaround. That's not what we're meant to do. And for the body, you want to have 2 silhouettes with a form of curve, giving you the general gesture of the body. And for the body, I suggest that in the beginning you try to train both at side view and 3/4. No, this will be the most I think the most important and the most effective. You can do a front view as well, but front view are generally a little bit too common, and the 3/4 view in most graphical representations, they will help you to create a sense of movement better, especially if you're drawing form of road, you know, a plane under your character. Just imagine your character as an action figure, really. Excuse me, not an action figure, a figure on a stand. You may want to put one of her feet at the back and one of the other feet at the front, you know, to create this sense of movement. We're not going to do that here, because again, that's not the course. That's the course mainly on form and shapes. But if you want to create a sense of movement, a more dynamic figure, the 3/4 view is often the best choice. Now the side view, I think, the side view will help you to generate a lot of character extremely fast. I think it's the easiest view to draw, and it's also one of the views that will help you to train on both forms and gesture at the same time. Where the front view, in the front view, it's extremely difficult to appreciate the gesture because of the foreshortening. And if you're beginning, foreshortening is not the part you want to train first. So let's try another character inside you. Now, we're getting for the face, skull, mandible. I'm gonna draw this one very differently from the other one. Rhythm of the neck. thorax, abdomen, iliac bone. And then here I'm not gonna draw limbs. I'm gonna directly go for the fold of the clothing, of the garment of the character. And note already how the character looks different from the beginning, from the previous one, since the head is smaller first. Then the neck goes forward. Torso is 2 times size of the head, which it's a correct anatomical proportion. And now note the gesture of the body. It's going forward. And I'm gonna place the scapula in order for one arm to be placed this way and another arm to be placed that way. And then you're already giving your character a pose, Complementarity. Maybe this arm is a little bit too forward. It doesn't really work, I think, in terms of clavicle. But that's not a big problem because that's not the anatomical part. So this arm is supposed to go forward to show something, and that other arm is supposed to go backward and end on the hip in order to show something as well. So the global gesture used here gives you an information on the character's behavior. Type of clothing character is wearing as well. That's a long skirt or a long dress. One or the other. Let's suppose it's a whole, it's a dress. So how does it inform you on the character? It's a tall character, apparently. It's a character with a quite small head, little bit of a bust, busty character. Not too thin here, little thick there, and longless. So, how does it resonate with you? Which kind of character is that? So, take a little bit of time and think of it in terms of archetypes. Which kind of archetype should it be for you? Now, if you add something, suppose you add this character hat. Maybe that's not the best hat to add. Well, I think that's. At least I told you it was a hat, so now you're not too confused. But maybe it's not the best hat. No, it's definitely a shit hat. So, we had a hat. I don't know, with something like a brooch here. Something maybe like a cocarde. No, tricolor hat. Now, it has modified your vision of the character again, right? You may realize that the arms are a bit short, and they're not that muscular as well. So, the pose of the character, the body type of the character, and the quirk of the character, here her hat, gives you 3 layers of information on who the character may be, how you may use this character. So this character a bit in attitude. It's a busty, thick type of character. She's tall, and she's got that hat with that specific little brooch on it. Again, take your time. You just appropriate the general shape. Try to imagine other things, maybe. Maybe you want to imagine a fan here. Even if she has her hand on her hips, let's suppose she also has a fan in her hand. And the fan has the same motifs on it as the hat. So you have again this little symbol. So that gives you another information here. That may give you an information on the organization the character is part of. May give you information on her alignment, which kind of faction she's part of, which kind of people she sympathizes with. And the more you had detail on her accessory, for example, if I try to add more details on the dress by adding something of maybe a color here. But it's not the dress per se, maybe I'll add some symbols on it. You want to keep it simple because if you put more than 2 accessories on the character, it can become a little bit confusing. So we'll leave it at the dress, the hat, the fan. The fan here is something that will break the monotony of the green, and also this symbol. The fact that this symbol isn't. This is the thing you want to remember. Now let's try another green character, but a different green character. Start with a very big head. Torso same size of the head. A little bit of a abdomen here, and some kind of a. Now, how do we make this character different? So first, it may look more childish to you. Because of the head side. Now, is it a child? No, is it the goal here? Is it to make a child? Not really. It's to make something that looks like a child, or at least that looks very different from what we did just before. Now, you may remember that in an earlier chapter, we already made use of the opposition that exists between a tall, slender character and a small, petite character. And the opposition here was supposed to put in front of us that these characters are enemies. They're opponents, at least. And there was some form of desire from the blue character to be more like the red character, which was the antagonist here. But in our new example, we're going to use the same kind of symbol, the same kind of opposition. However, we're dealing with 2 characters which are part of the same faction, or at least which are not opponents. So how do we display that? First, we may simply, add this little symbol on this character. The symbol we established before. But let's draw the character first. You may realize that we're breaking some principle we've established at the beginning of the lesson already, because what we're doing is a little bit too complex already. But just remember the shape, the general shape. If you have to reproduce something like that, because this one it's not that hard to reproduce it. You have all the essential part, which are very visible. But the little character, the child character, let's say, is a little bit more difficult to reproduce if you want to reproduce her accurately. You will want to imagine, the shape, the silhouette around. You want to focus on this, on the fact that how to draw thorax, you know how to draw a skull approximately, you know how to draw the abdomen here, and you know how to draw the hips and the legs. So you may want to imagine that this character is a little small character which has a wish to be closer to the bigger, slender character. Well, she's not that slender now, but continue on the principle we've already established. So have this little character, which kind of looks like a cross between a little android and a little insectoid creature, because of this appearance. So in the beginning, think of shapes. With to reproduce this character, if you want to reproduce this character or this character, you think about the contour first, you think about the silhouette, and then you add the inner complexity. And you're able quite fast to reproduce the gesture. And you may even want to create some form of imitation. So that's the raw block, That's the raw part of the character. Now we have a more refined part of the character. So we're gonna continue with this one. So you want to give her eyes. And when you're in three-quarter, think of eyes as orbits first. Think about the orbits first, then place the little nose, and really draw the whole orbit. Then place the little nose, place the little mouth, place the jaw, the full mandible, rhythm of the neck, clavicle. Really for the front of the character, the clavicles are the crucial part. Bit of the torso, the arms, the end, which will almost always be triangle in the beginning. Gonna go for a no feet character. Really looks looks better. So this character has the same symbol on the side. Should we make her a hat? Maybe we should make her a hat. If you don't know which kind of quirks to give to your character, give him a hat. Give him some form of a headdress or a hairstyle that looks like that, because that's generally the best way to start. Hats make for some of the best quirks. Any kind of headdress, a cap, even. So that's a different hat. Should give you different information in terms of silhouette. Now for the little car. If you can place the symbol of the organization on the hat, it will be extremely visible. It's either the hat, the face, but it's not really practical to put a symbol on your face, except if it's a tattoo. Or it's the torso, so we're gonna put it to these two different places, because this little character here, she is proud to be part of this organization. I don't know why, but she is proud to be part of those. So we got red, white, and purple. So these two characters are part of the same organization. Obviously, their build is not the same. So we can consider that this organization is for diversity to some extent. Since we have these two characters, they're so different in terms of general shape. They're still humanoid, so they're not that different. It's not such a diverse organization. They're still both humanoid. They're the same. Element as well. So if we try to go for more details on the heads, let's get to the tall protagonist first. We're not drawing a hat here, just her head. Now again, first the eyes, and if you want to make it very, very easy for you to draw the eyes, just first try to draw the limitation of the face. Then you limit your forehead. It's all about creating simple limits, really drawing anything. Top of the skull, temples,
And then you start drawing these two shapes, parallelogram here, parallelogram here, establishing the nose, nostrils, upper lip, between the lip, lower lip, chin. I prefer something which is a little more subtle, but that will do for now. Story back of the scope. So this is a typical head, This is a typical kind of head you'll be able to draw in the beginning. I really mentioned the beginning, so I didn't nail that at all. Rhythm of the neck, should follow how the head's turned. And then the eyes themselves, You may want to draw the eyes in another color in the beginning to make them more apparent, Place your eye, so you know the behavior of the character. And same thing when you draw this head from side view. Outside view will give a bit more of importance to the back of the head. And really, I'm starting to draw the whole skull at once, but you don't have to do that. You can start just by establishing the limits of the face, cheekbones, where you're going to play the ears, and then you just start like that. You don't have to define the shape of the skull every time you do it. But it just helps, really. So the orbits, forehead, the nose is a little long here. Thick lips, thicker lips, and the chin. No, you really don't have to draw exactly the same face. You just have to keep the most important feature here. Here is a long, thin nose, thick lips, and these eyes, these blue eyes, which are supposed to define this character. I didn't even draw the hair here because it wasn't that important. Most of the time this will be hidden either by the hat or the hair he has in here. Just consider different option. Maybe this character looks better with shorter hair. Maybe this character looks better with longer hair. Maybe this character looks better with some form of asymmetrical hairstyle. You'll consider it. Now for the little character, go a little bit faster. So I want to start with the orbits again, then the nose, then the mouth. No, and if you really have to draw only this part of the head, it's efficient. It's the most important part. So it's just easier to draw the skull in the beginning because it gives you a lot more of landmarks when it comes to head. But you really, the face can do. Now we'll draw bigger eyes because we started with that. And thinner mouth, thinner lips. Now I got another bias, because because I'm drawing essentially adults, it's a little bit difficult to draw a child here. So I need to get to more children reference models. Now, really, if I want to give you the crux of it, is that the jaw isn't supposed to be as defined as for an adult. So you want to go same way here. The orbits, little round nose, and small lips. It's almost like drawing a little clown, really. If you're drawing a child. So that's our generic, process to creating characters. So now you can make 4 of them. Just think about the relationships between the characters, of course, it's the most important. And try different angles, try different heads. Again, this is not a turnaround. You just want to try different type of angles to see if some characters are most suited for a specific angle. For example, you realize that the characters are facing the left direction here, where they could have been facing the right direction, even in the 3/4. So you may want to consider that. And then finally, give them a symbol. Give them something that makes your characters yours.